with the last game ending on a massive cliffhanger of Kissy Missy being attacked, leaving hundreds of unanswered questions. Yet since almost no clues have been revealed as to what will be in the next chapter, or even any teasers half a year later, keeping this game a complete mystery. But thanks to some small clues the devs have given us over the past few months and tons of digging, I solved where chapter 4 would take place, what the plot of the game could be, and even the identity of the next main villain. So first, before we do anything, we need to ask, where will chapter 4 take place? They didn't directly tell us at the end of chapter 3 like they've done in chapters previously, but they have given us some interesting hints. As if you've watched any of my other chapter 4 videos, we've narrowed the location down to 2 areas. First, there's the prison, an undisclosed area found in the game files, meant to be teased at the end of chapter 3 through a sign similar to the Playcare sign. And secondly, the Playtime Park, an area seen towards the beginning of chapter 3 by the train station, advertising a new theme park based around the characters. And after doing some research, I'm almost 100% certain the next game will take place here. Since for one, as we mentioned, the prison is only shown in unused parts of the game and was never teased anywhere in the final chapter, leading me to believe it was most likely a scrapped location and they just never removed the old teases in the files in time. Plus, there already is a prison in the game where we see Dog Day tied up, so it would be weird to have 2 prisons in completely different areas. But also, speaking on the park, in May of this year, the devs dropped the Poppy Playtime Orientation Notebook, a book that outlines everything about the factory and its toys given to the employees when they are hired. And in the provided calendar, we can see in March, the owner of the book, named PW, had planned an inspection day at the park, again referencing this new area from the poster, clearly trying to draw more attention to it. And now, with multiple mentions of this new mysterious park we hadn't ever seen before until recently, unless this is all a big red herring meant to throw us off and keep us surprised, something the devs have actually done before with things like the Braun the dinosaur head in the chapter 3 teaser, it seems otherwise almost guaranteed that this will in fact be the next location, especially since we've seen with recent games like Indigo Park that a theme park setting works perfectly in this genre of horror. But then this brings up the next question: what characters will be in this chapter? Well, obviously we know Poppy, Ollie, and hopefully an alive Kissy will all reappear in some way, but we also might be seeing some more returning faces as well. Since for one, the devs have mentioned adding some of the scrapped characters from the chapter 2 BTS video last year if they got popular enough. Granted, none have really caught on outside of Daisy the Flower, who the CEO has already said he hated, so I highly doubt that. But I also think it's possible we could actually see Huggy Wuggy in the chapter as well. See, in chapter 1, we start on the base floor of the factory. Then in chapter 2 and 3, we enter the basement area of the factory where the game station and Playcare were held underground. Before, at the end of chapter 3, we go down another lift, taking us even lower into Playtime Co. And as a commenter on my last theory pointed out, after we killed Huggy in chapter 1 and saw his remains on the pipes of chapter 2, we could see that he had clearly fallen deeper into the factory than the basement floor beneath the game station and Playcare, towards the same direction we end up going on the lift to start chapter 4. Meaning there's actually a good chance we could see Huggy, or at least what's left of him, in the chapter if this theory is right. Although with how many times they've teased this dude returning, just for him to not, I wouldn't place your bets on that. But there's also going to be some new characters, plural, as well, confirmed by the devs back in June of last year. And more specifically, the CEO has confirmed that there will in fact be a new main villain for chapter 4 in an interview. And I actually think that I already know a lot about who this new character could be. See, first off, looking back at the Poppy Playtime Orientation Notebook, here they list every single toy who has ever been created in the factory. I'm talking the smiling critters, all the Huggies, Baby and Daddy Longlegs, even the rejected toys like Sir Poops-a-Lot and the Pet Stone make an appearance here, but they never mention any new toys that we haven't already seen in the factory. So if chapter 4 will have a new villain, where is this toy in the Orientation Notebook? Well, if we go to the Poppy Playtime page of the book, we can see they tell us that the Poppy doll in 1950 cost $6, or $36 at the time of writing, adjusted for inflation. And when calculating the inflation rates during these times, $6 in 1950 was worth approximately be $36 in the year 1993, meaning the orientation book had to be written in 1993. Also confirmed by the BoogieBot promo scene as well, who is the last known Playtime Co. toy releasing for Christmas 1993, a couple years before the factory would close from the Hour of Joy in August of 1995. But that still leaves 2 years of potential toys unaccounted for from 1994 and the beginning of 1995, which has to be when this Chapter 4 character was created, pretty much confirming to us that whatever this upcoming toy was, it was likely one of the last toys Playtime Co. ever produced, for better or worse. And if true, this also proves even more that the chapter will in fact take place in the Playtime Park, since similarly to the monster, Playtime Park is never mentioned in the base orientation notebook in the listed locations, meaning it also had to be created after 1993. And we know this because, as mentioned, in PW's employee calendar from 1995, they listed an inspection day at the park, suggesting at the time of this entry, the park was still undergoing maintenance and was preparing to open later in 1995. And perhaps most interestingly, they tell us at the beginning that PW was actually a biologist who worked on creating the toys of the factory, which makes me ask an interesting question. Why would they hire a biologist of all people to inspect this area? It doesn't make sense for Playtime Co. to order a biology professional to inspect a random theme park in the factory, unless there were some kinds of monsters and experiments inside that needed proper maintenance before being opened. Again, giving more evidence that the Chapter 4 monster will be inside of the theme park, and also confirming it was a monster PW had some kind of part in producing, which opens a whole can of worms on who PW could be. But going back to who this main antagonist at the park is, since we know they were likely the one managing the Playtime Park, I can only assume it would be some kind of theme park mascot, whether that be a clown or something else relating to parks. Although, admittedly, the chapters went from a Sour Patch Kid to a spider to a Jack-in-the-Box monster to a gas-spinning cat. So to be honest, it's basically impossible to guess what it's going to be. But whoever they are, I can promise you they won't be friendly and won't be happy with our entrance into the park. We know this because our good old friend Poppy has recently been questioned on whether or not she's really our friend, since in a recent theory by Game Theory, they pointed out on multiple occasions that Poppy isn't as trustworthy as she seems. As in Chapter 1, we could see writing on the walls telling us that she can't be trusted for one, and in Chapter 2, she shows this off by telling us she would help us escape through the train in the game station, just at the end to change the tracks and drag us deeper into the factory, knowing we wouldn't have trusted her if she told us the truth. And fun fact, she actually tried to do the same exact thing in Chapter 3's ending, as after Kissy finally pulls the lift and we get dragged deeper into the factory, not being able to turn back, we can hear Poppy was about to tell us something important on our way down before being interrupted by Kissy being attacked.
Once we hit the ground, we need to be cautious. There's something...
This suggests there's something, likely the Chapter 4 monster, down in the park that Poppy didn't want to tell us about because otherwise we likely wouldn't have followed her down the lift. Similarly to how she told us her true plans with us after we were stuck on the Chapter 2 train, and had she told us these plans of dragging us deeper into the factory to kill all these monsters originally, we likely wouldn't have helped her complete her mission. But now you may be asking, why did Poppy keep dragging us deeper into the factory, and why did she need our help specifically? Well, I made a whole video solving exactly what Poppy wants from us and even how the entire game will end, so check that out here for more info on what's to come.